Liverpool 3, Brentford 0. No Salah, no Mane, no problem. For Jurgen Klopp's men today, they closed the gap slightly on Manchester City. It still appears they will need a miracle to win this title, but they have to keep themselves in the race. They want to stay out of a top four challenge with everybody else. And it was a very good, comfortable, solid performance from Liverpool. And West Ham United drop points. 2 games in hand now Arsenal have over them, and they're only 2 points behind them. Spurs have got 4 games in hand over them. They could see themselves drop right down to 6th place if the majority of those games in hand are won. And the form of Tottenham and the form of Arsenal suggest they may just do that. Interesting day. That we should now be gearing up and getting ready to watch the North London derby. Of course, that isn't going ahead. And I wonder what West Ham losing would do to the mentality of those teams going into that game. It would have been an amazing afternoon if it was able to go ahead, but it isn't. So we're here. I want your thoughts and I want your feelings, because for me, if I talk about the Liverpool game for a moment, it's kind of weird, like Liverpool's Premier League campaign now, because they're going to want to stay as close. They're not going to want to have a huge gap between them and Man City. They're not going to want the embarrassment of finishing the season 10, 11 plus points behind Man City. They've got a game in hand. I think they can get the points stuck down to about 8. And look, they're going to wait for maybe a slip up. And there could be. And this is what's crazy about the league and pressure. Win the game in hand, you're 8 points behind. I still think Man City and Liverpool do have to play each other again. I think they played each other twice already. They might have already played each other twice. I can't even remember now. I'm going to go and have a look. But the point I'm making is there's still a long way to go this season. You get yourself to 8 points, and then City lose a game and you win. Suddenly it's 5 and you've got an opportunity. And they do play Man City again in April. And there's a lot of games between now and then. They want to keep themselves in the hunt in case something mad happens at Man City. Highly unlikely, but they want to be there, or they want to be thereabouts for that. And look, a big day for Arsenal and a big day for Tottenham today, even though they're not playing, with West Ham dropping points. Still 50 points available. If you think Man City have already won, you forgot this is the Premier League. And I agree with you. Like, they're the clear favourites now. But I think if Liverpool or Chelsea were to throw in the towel and then City went on a bad run, they kick themselves. They really will. I don't think Jurgen Klopp's going to allow that to happen. So, and I think what's really important as well is how, you look at it from the point of view of people said Liverpool were going to lose these games without Mane and Salah. And I think today was a big day for those fringe players. We can win football matches in the Premier League without our best 2 attackers. It's so big for the men. Failed to win today, struggle to score, and that starts to seep into your head a little bit. Oh, maybe we can't. Really good for the mentality side of things. I said Klopp would fix up the squad for the next game. Much better performance. The team needed this result to be confident without the big boys. Yeah, exactly what I was saying there, Aaron. I think you're spot on there, my friend. I really do. Ray here with You'll Never Walk Alone with lots of 100%. Hope you're good, Thomas. Hope you're well. Someone here. Secret phrase with my picture. Funny. Look, City are running away with it right now, but that's the other side of this as well. Man, Liverpool, if they finish 10 plus points behind City at the end of the season, it's not only a disastrous Premier League campaign, it's an embarrassment to be that far behind a team that you are as good as. It is, it's too many drop points, too many sort of leaky moments at the back, as an example. And look, Liverpool were just much better than Brentford today. Keep winning. Who they got next? They've got the EFL Cup game, then away to Palace. Then they've got Cardiff. And then no real hard games in the league. Thus far, really, when you look at it. For a while now. Norwich, Burnley, Leicester. Leicester are trash now. They'll be fine against Leicester. Palace, they'll give you this. Liverpool, just keep winning and see what happens, I would say. I'm also with a lot of you Liverpool fans saying the league is over right now. I don't quite agree with, especially as Liverpool have still got to play Man City. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? Leeds saved United's comedy season today. Well, they did and they didn't. Man United, this is the way the Glazers will look at West Ham drawing. Oh, we gained a point on top 4. That's loser mentality. I can't even think about yesterday's game. I'm getting horrible feeling in my stomach just thinking about it. It's as straightforward as that. Today, it's a win for Arsenal and it's a win for Tottenham. It really is, because they win their games in hand, or they don't even have to win all of them, and they go clear of them. You know, especially, I mean, what's crazy, if Tottenham win all 4 of their games in hand, it's a big if, they go above Chelsea. That's what's crazy about this league. So, you know, when people are talking about Chelsea or Liverpool, one of them getting dragged into a top 4 race, it is conceivable. That's another reason why both Chelsea and Liverpool just have to look at City and try and catch them. Don't look behind you. Keep trying to win games, because you don't want to get dragged into that race. You really, really don't. Panel coming on pretty soon. We've got Louis, we've got Don Hussein, and we've got Man Like Zayn coming on to have their say. Pipe down, it's just Brentford. Yeah, the same Brentford team that drew 3-3 with them. Same Brentford team that drew 3-3 with them. Thank you. Leeds need a gap from the Hammers, is what's been said there by AK. The fans having been on Klopp's neck, forcing him to make changes, and it's working, is what Hamid has got to say there. Mohammed says, if Liverpool win the League Cup plus the Champions League and end up 10 points behind City, is that a good season? It's a good season. It's a very good season. It's a poor Premier League campaign. You can ring fence the two things from one another. It's like, if you win the Premier League, it's a good season. If you go out in a group stage of the Champions League, it's a bad Champions League campaign. So the two things can exist side by side. But yeah, if you win 2 trophies, one of them being a Champions League, you've had a very good season. A season that, you know, you got to think about it. Only how many teams in England have actually ever won the Champions League? Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Forest, Aston Villa. If Ipswich won it, I don't know. I think Ipswich might have won it. Like, I don't think 10 clubs have won it. I'm probably missing 1 or 2, right? So it's always a great season if you win a trophy that out of the, how many? Over 100 professional teams in the Premier League, less than 10% have won it. So yeah, it's always big, but it would be a bad Premier League campaign. They're 2 different things, in my view. You know, if Man United were to do the unthinkable and win the Champions League, isn't going to happen. It's a hypothetical, so calm down. It doesn't make our Premier League season any better. It makes our season better, not our Premier League season. Simple as that. Simple as that. Rafa to United. Can you imagine? Rafa Benitez. Oh, never going to happen. Be hilarious. I've seen some rumors today of Wayne Rooney to Everton. He did a really good job, though, at Derby, considering all their problems. If they didn't have the points deductions, which is not Wayne Rooney's fault, they'd be like 10th in the table, and they'd probably be even higher because they've obviously had to get rid of quality players because of money issues. He's doing well. Like, I actually think learning that you trade at that level, going through this adversity, it could be really good for Wayne Rooney. It really, really could. And I don't think anybody fancied Rooney as a manager, maybe because of the way he spoke. He wasn't so overly articulate in front of the camera, but he seems to be doing a really good job to be his age, managing that terrible situation. I think it's good for it's good. It's clearly good for him. Thoughts on Rooney to Everton rumors? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he'd do a good job there. I think there's something about Wayne Rooney that gives me a feeling he's going to be a decent manager. I don't know how good, but it sounds like he's going to be decent. You know, Bayern, PSG, and Real Madrid will share Liverpool's Liverpool's dead defense. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. It's going to definitely be an intriguing one. Right, I'm going to get the panel out in just a few moments when I see their cameras turn on, so I know they're there and I know they're ready. Yes, they are. I don't know where little Louis is. Oh, Louis is there now. Louis, you got your Arsenal shirt ready, Lulu? I don't think he's got his Arsenal shirt ready. He should have, because he's got to wear that because he lost his bet. But listen, everyone do me a favor and smash that like and share button. Panel time now. Let's go. How you doing, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Good. Happy for the 3 points, man.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it was kind of a weird first half. It sort of started slowly, corner opportunities from corners. They started to have their little moments themselves. But once you scored, it was pretty much game, set, match.
Yeah, that happens with Liverpool games, though. Like with it happened in the Aston Villa game where the first half wasn't great. It happened in the Wolves game where the first half wasn't great. It takes us a little bit of time to get properly settled in, But then when the goal went in and kind of they had to play a little bit more on the front foot to try and get that goal, there was only going to be one winner. So no, it was positive afternoon all round.
Yeah, absolutely. And good message for the fringe and squad players, because rivals, and I will count myself out of this because I was intrigued to see how you do, but a lot of people were like, this was when you weren't going to win the Premier League. It was going to be during these 3 or 4 games that Mo Salah and Mane missed where you were going to lose points, fall behind. Like a good response to those kind of claims.
Yes, absolutely. Brilliant response. Look, the thing is, I said this for the next 3-4 games, I would happily take shit housing 1-0 dirty football wins. I do not care. It's about the 3 points now and nothing but the 3 points. I'm going to be real. Today's football we played. I'll be honest. As much as the win was important, the performance was not good. For being real, the football is unsustainable still. But look, I said this after the Arsenal game. Oxlade-Chamberlain plays, Curtis Jones plays, a bit more creativity than the other two, and then Milne Anderson. Now we're referring to them like you guys refer to McFred. That just shows the sad state of them. But when when they played, I said post Arsenal, I gave the example of Daniel James. Whether he's a good player or not, on the counter attack, he's a very good option because he's a fast footballer. With Oxlade-Chamberlain, he does different type of stuff. He can run with the ball. He has pace. He can cross. He can shoot. He offers you different, basically assets that the others don't offer you. And this is why I said he needs to play. Curtis Jones started as well. Both of them together, it offered us a bit more creativity. So Fabinho scored, and in 1 week he scored 3 goals, which is mad, absolutely crazy. I would have never anticipated this. Overall, the most important thing right now in January, and to be honest, from now to the end of the season, is 3 points. That's what's important. Title race, completely agree with Terry. It is not over. I said this, it's not over last time. I said it's not over. I said our lives as Liverpool fans have been built on illogical hope, and hope that has zero common sense. This is what my life has been built on. So I will continue to be illogical. I will continue to have zero common sense, and I'll continue to believe that somehow we're going to do this. So we obviously need some teams to beat Man City, but for us personally as Liverpool, we need to win every single game now. There is no margin for error whatsoever. And just finally, with one of the obviously I was just listening into what you said at the start. I just disagree with one thing. I think personally, I wouldn't separate the Premier League and Champions League seasons because it's still the same team. I like, you can say it's a bad Premier League campaign, but overall campaign is what really matters. Because me personally, if you win either big years or the Premier League, it's a good season. And there's only, as you said, 5 English clubs in history who have won the Champions League. So you're with the elite of the elite. And to the guy who super chatted, Madrid and PSG are actually facing each other, so one of them are going to be out, and you don't know who is going to come out from the draw. You might get a good draw in the quarterfinals. You might get a Villarreal. You might get a good draw. There are a couple of teams in there who aren't as strong, so you might get them. But for me personally, realistically speaking, from a realistic perspective, Champions League is probably more realistic for Liverpool to win.
And I get that. Look, I do understand. As I said, if you win either of those two tournaments, it's a very good season. There's no doubt about it. I think in terms of the club, though, if you finish, I'm not putting you in this situation, you might finish, if you finish third and you're 20 points behind Man City, that needs to be addressed, if that makes 100%. Sense with the signing. So it's not a good Premier League campaign. It's almost, you can't just say, right, we'll ignore all the problems in the Prem because we won a Champions League. It's about focusing on it. But in terms of celebrating, yeah, you've definitely got to celebrate winning either of those 2 trophies. Zayn, do you agree that the way you're playing at the moment is unsustainable?
Unsustainable, that's a bit extreme. I think, yeah, we had a professional performance today. It wasn't great first half. Obviously, we got the goal, and that led to them having to attack us and then opening up and giving us space, which we need to thrive on. So I'd say it was a good professional performance, but I'm just happy, bro, because all these men that be chatting about these players, sell them, do this, they're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Guess what, bro? They stepped up today, and I'll keep saying it, bro. If you can let Mane go 8 games in a row without goals or assists, give someone else a chance, bro. And today, Ox, he's been, roundly, derided by the fans. Sell him, he's no good, he's always injured. Minamino, who I've been backing, bro. He boxed up with a goal. I'm not going to say it's a great goal, whatever, but ultimately, like I keep saying to people, I'll back my players as long as they put the output in, right? The output is what I care about. So if you're forward, goals and assists. Now for Trent, this is why Trent's in the team, and this is why he's a great player. Not a great defender. Let's get that right. I've never said he's a great defender, but what does he do? Helps us create goals and scores goals for us. Do you know what I mean? So from my point of view, overall, a decent performance. All I'd say is obviously the competition was Brentford, but again, they are quite a hard team to break down because they're all playing low block as well. So I think next couple of games will be okay. Do you know what I mean? And it highlights the myth about we need certain players. I think fundamentally, if we can control the game where we did at points with a better midfield, Milner and Henderson should not be in there. I am still got a debate about why Henderson always plays, because again, he wasn't that great today. He lost the ball quite a few times, but let's move because people start crying about it if I call him out every game. But I don't think it's, to your question, I don't think it's unsustainable. I think we'll get a run going now. As you called out, a lot of the teams we're playing in the coming weeks are not massive great teams. So arguably, if we're as good as we say we are, we should win those games and get a good 5-6 win streak going in the league. So is what it is. This is what I'd expect from Liverpool. So, and finally, sorry, Terry, one thing I wanted to bring up about this whole thing, I think there was a stat during the game where one of the commentators said that Liverpool have lost 10 points in game-winning positions. So again, what I'd call out is generally the midfield is what controls the game. So again, it alludes to my point, which I've said all season, that our midfield is not where it should be for us to challenge for the league because we've lost 10 points in game-winning positions. If we had those 10 points now, us and City will be neck and neck, bro. So that's all I've got to say on that.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that. Tom's here with us as well now. I didn't send the link into the group chat. That's why he didn't have it, but he joins us now. Louis, I want to ask you about the title race because I can review today's game, but it's nothing really happened. Like Liverpool just played Liverpool's way. Do you still think you're in the title race, Lou?
I mean, it's a difficult one because if you asked me at this stage last season, even with all of our injuries, we were still in the title race. So a lot can happen in football. So I kind of agree with what you guys have said earlier, like win your games and then you're very much still in the title race. And I think that game against City in April, if we're within, 3-4 points of City then, and then we win that game, even if we're in 5 points of City and then we win that game, we go 1 or 2 behind them, I think that it could all be to play for. And City, I know recently they've been getting wins, but not looking great when they've done it. Like yesterday, I know that games are won by goals and De Bruyne scored and no one shut that away from him. But at the end of the day, it is a long shot. So that goes an inch to the left and Kepa saves it. Then it's a completely different scenario and Chelsea draw that game. So I think a lot can happen in football.
You think about City's last 2 games, to be fair, in the league. You can even count 3 because they weren't that great against. That's the one thing that I would say that gives them such an advantage. They weren't great against Brentford. They deserved to win, but weren't great. I can't believe they beat Arsenal with the way that game was going. And then yesterday against Chelsea, I felt like a draw would have been a fair result in terms of the overall play. But you can't let them just the way people talk of like, City have won it. Let's just stop trying. It makes no sense to me because if that just tells me you've never watched football before. And people are acting like miracles haven't happened. Teams haven't collapsed. Where City would get away with a collapse. I remember when Man United, when we came back from 2-0 down to stop them from winning the league in the derby, we'd given up on winning the league 2 months prior, and their gap became huge. But they lost a couple of games in that period, and they had a little mini wobble. But we were too far behind to try and capitalize on that. If you guys can get yourselves within, win your game in hand and be 8 points behind, beat them and be 5 points behind, that builds pressure against Man City. And everyone go, no, they're definitely going to win it. They may ride that pressure and still win the league. But Liverpool Football Club owe it to you, the fans, to at least put pressure on City and not just go, well, there's 50 points remaining, but we're going to give up. I don't understand that logic. I think some people have that logic because
you've got to make sure you're in the position to capitalise in case there is. You can't just go, I drew it off, and then if they do have it, you go, well, we could have been there, but we all thought it was done and we concentrated on other things. The title isn't gone. It's heavily in City's favour. They've got a hand on the title. But if there's a wobble, which I think they're due, they haven't had a wobble like us and Chelsea have had, where they went 4 or 5 games with only 1 win. If that happens, we've got to make sure we're in a position to really crank the pressure up. And I think us having the Champions League coming back in February, that should only give us a boost because of how well we've been playing in it. Hopefully that gives us momentum and we're right up there for the rest of it. I don't expect us to win the title at this point because no one should be bottling a title when there's 7-8 points clear. But if the opportunity arises, you have to be there to capitalise. You can't sit there at the end of the season if they have a wobble and go, oh, well, they didn't have one when we expected them to, so we just wrote it off and concentrate on other things.
I'll give you an example of a run of games here. And look, Michael Ramsey here says, Terry, the title race was over before the season started for Liverpool because Klopp is too cheap. Didn't buy enough players, essentially. They've got a run of games, City. They played Spurs at home, followed by Everton away, followed by Man United at home in the space of 2 weeks.
Come on, United.
Well, but you look at it that way. And look, we don't know how good or bad Spurs will be by then. Spurs' record against them is pretty good. To say that Spurs can't nick a draw at the Etihad with Antonio Conte is a stupid say. They can. We have no idea who's going to be managing Everton, what kind of mood or buoyancy they're going to be in. Wayne Rooney might. Can you imagine Wayne Rooney does Liverpool a favour? It'd be mad, all right? So that could.
Do you really think Rooney is going to be the Everton manager?
I've just seen rumours. I don't have any idea.
I hope he doesn't. I want him to stay at Derby because he's doing something mad there.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want him to Premier. I want him to have 2 or 3 years learning outside the Prem and the pressure. But you don't know who they'll have in. They might be bounced back. Man United, look, it's a derby. Derbies are often nullified for these matches. Now, City, anyone who doesn't want Liverpool to win the league will say, no, absolutely, no way, that's not going to happen. Well, that just tells me you've never watched football or you're lying to yourself. So Liverpool got to stay there or thereabouts because they don't even have to lose those games. They could win 1 and draw 2. That's 4 points. So if you're 8 points, you could gain, you could go from your 8 points behind, you could go to 4 points behind. Then you play them in April, beat them, you're 1 point behind them, and there'll be 6 games remaining. 6 games remaining of you breathing down their necks. It can happen. But throw the towel in now, and you do just let them walk away with it. It's mad. It's mad.
To be fair, Terry, one thing I think would be useful is if we win the Carabao Cup, generally, I think that gives us momentum and drive.
It's a massive boost.
Because you've seen City, when they won that trophy, they've pushed on their next level in the league after that because it just gives them that confidence that, look, we're winners, we can do something. So I think this game on Thursday will be quite critical to that because it will give the squad players belief that they are good enough, right? And the fact that, so that's what you need in a long season. You need everyone to contribute and you need all your players, your squad players as well, to believe they can do something on the pitch, right? And if we get that belief going, you never know. And like you said, you could get to that point, in April, whereby we're a few points behind, win that game, and then literally it's 2-3 points, and then suddenly let's see what happens. All I would say with a bit of caution is this season we've not had the ability to control games as we have in the past. So that's my concern with that, is that we can ourselves slip up and lose silly games that we shouldn't lose, or draw silly games. As I said, 10 points we've dropped in match-winning positions. Brentford, Chelsea, do you know what I mean? There's quite a few games you think, come on, man, let's lock this down. So
yeah,
there's a hope there, but like I said, let's not get too gassed. Play a game at a time, and we'll take it from there, bro. But yeah,
the thing is, we're not getting gassed. Everyone here is being normal, because I know 100% there are rival fans watching this who will come back on the terrace, start saying, "Oh, you guys said this, you guys said that." We're saying, in case City slip up, we need to be there. That's the one thing that we're saying. We're saying, in a hypothetical scenario in which City go 3-4 games without a win, draw 3 games, or lose 2, whatever it is, exactly what Terry said. They draw away to Everton, they lose, for example, to Tottenham, they lose to United, whatever it is, and some way, somehow you have to be there. Remember the season when we lost the league by 1 point, we were ahead by this similar margins, 8 points, but City kept the belief, they kept going, they kept playing football, and this is what we need to do. This is why, genuinely speaking, I would, first of all, we have actual evidence to prove that Liverpool can win 18 in a row. That's number one. So we just need to channel that inner self where we just win 18 in a row and don't drop points. And I'm saying this right here, right now. And I know Zayn and Tom, I don't want to speak for them, but I know they'd agree with me. From now to the end of the season in the Premier League, they would take a stinky 1-0 win in every single game. They don't give a shit about no performance.
100%.
They don't give a shit about fluid football. Give me a 1-0 win where we score a 1 penalty every game and it's stinky and we park the bus. I do not care. We just need 3 points. But the one thing I will say, though, is this might surprise Terry and surprise everyone. Yesterday, a Chelsea fan spoke to me after they lost to City, and he was like, I wish Liverpool win this league. I don't want this league to be turned to a farmers league and stuff. I want like, the Premier League, blah, blah, blah. And I was shocked because Chelsea, as we know, there's a rivalry between Liverpool and Chelsea. There isn't a real rivalry between Chelsea and City. So, maybe there are like, I don't want to like make it seem as if Liverpool are like the superheroes of the Premier League. But to some people you see, they won't say this in public. But I know for a fact there are a lot of people who would rather us win it just so they can destroy this whole Farmers League thing that's been going on with City just winning and winning and winning and winning. So, let's see what happens, man. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
We need United to do us a favor. Scott McTominay winner like they did last time. 2-0 win. Still remember Ederson clearance, Scott McTominay. I celebrated that goal. I'm going to be real.
You just need to take every game by game because
that's going to be incredible, man. Come on.
Next game's a dangerous one. Crystal Palace away is not an easy place to go. It's a dangerous one. We've just got to make sure we got our focus on the next games because we're without Salah, we're without Mane. There's a lot of attacking threat gone there, but this squad is still good enough to win that game. They've just got to have that belief, and they've shown it today. I think the players stepped up when they needed to. I think the defence, apart from the sloppy passes, which was getting stupidly annoying, were very solid. The midfield was quite good today. I thought Jordan Henderson actually stuck to a role of supporting Trent defensively a lot better today. And it worked out well. They didn't have the overloads on the right side. We looked a lot more solid.
But Tom, we said this last time. We said we have no problem with either Henderson or Milner, just not both. This is where the issue is. Mm-hmm. If you play both, then it's a disaster. If you play one of them, it's fine. No one is going to sit here and complain about Milner, Ox, or Henderson, Ox, or Milner, Curtis, or whatever it is. But when it's both, the midfield is just there being pointless. Like, no one can do shit with the ball. Curtis today, here's the thing, and I used this example last time. Sorry to cut you, Tom. But I used this example last time. With Curtis and Ox, they do stuff that the others don't. So they can shoot, they can pass, they can dribble, they can do different things. So this is why they bring a different element to our midfield. And respectfully, whether they're good footballers or not, once again, they offer a different element and it's something we need. So, that first half was just stinky. I'm not going to lie. It was extremely stinky. It was looking like Cross and Inshallah FC again. And we were just sat there like hoping a cross would hit someone's head. But then a cross hit someone's head, thank God. But then after that, in the second half, we were much more fluid. And I think it made the difference.
I think a lot of that was to do with I think there was pressure on these players today because I believe for years now. So what's said and done on social media, in the mainstream media, players are not hearing about. Back in the day, if you didn't watch the shows on TV or read the newspapers, which you can go a whole day without turning your TV on or reading the newspaper. Everybody's so immersed in social media now, it's almost impossible to not do it. They read these things. They know what's being said. You can't do it without these players. You're going to fall off. That kind of pressure is built. That's why rivals have been pushing for it. The whole time they've been pushing for it. They've been pushing for it. They want to get into your heads, and people know it exists. And look, as you say, Liverpool have got to take it step by step. I wanted to ask you guys about something else. It's the second big article in the space of 4 days. First of all, the Telegraph, and now the Athletic. Two newspapers renowned for not being clickbait. They don't do like one. They don't do what the Daily Star do, where they write a line themselves and then just quote the rest of the stories, quoting things from the past, and they push it out as their own story. But again, it sounds like FSG are not anywhere near at the moment giving Mo Salah the contract that he wants, the money that he wants. Like, Tom, what is your take on that? Like, do you feel like they're dicing with danger? Do you think it's just part of the process and we'll sign a new deal? Or do you have any kind of concerns at all that you could lose Mo Salah?
I don't think we lose him. I just think we cave in. I think what we're trying to do right now is be dead business savvy and hope that his love for the club and this, that, and the other brings his contract demands down. But I do think if it gets to the summer and he still hasn't signed a new contract, we just give him what he wants. Because we cannot risk losing the entire front three for free in the next summer. You cannot have the entire front three in the last 12 months of their contract in one transfer window. It's a recipe for disaster, especially for a board that doesn't like to buy 5-6 players at a time. They do it very rarely. So I think they try and dice and get Salah to bring his contract demands down for another couple of months. And if it gets to the summer, they just go, there's your 400 grand a week, stay. Because I think Salah does want to stay. I don't think there's a lot of clubs that can take him now for the wage that he wants. I think we can afford it. I think we're just trying to keep a wage structure that isn't really sustainable for a top club. You know, there's no way that we should be playing our best players at the minute 200 grand a week when the team we're competing with, Man City, are doubling that, because it's not sustainable. We're gonna rule ourselves out with transfers because we don't want to pay the top end of wages. A wage structure is nice when you're challenging for top four, maybe an occasional one, but when you want to be up there consistently, you have to pay the best players what they want.
If Moneyball's successful, it only works once, because you're no longer buying players that you're trying to turn into winners. You're adding players to a team that's already winning. Therefore, the new players coming in, their agents are like, hang on a minute. Like, so if you're the player, say Mo Salah leaves. Yeah, by the way, Rafinha, we want you to replace Mo Salah. You want me to replace one of the most deadliest goal scorers the league's ever had? Well, I'm not coming in to be on bench money. I want Mo Salah money. I'm Mo Salah's. You think I'm good enough to replace Mo Salah? You pay me. That's how this stuff works at the end of the day. And he won't get as much as Mo Salah because he hasn't got any credit in the bank with Liverpool. But they're going to get. You aren't signing Mane's and Salah's now for mid-20s. Players that you go for now to play in your key positions, you are paying the going rate, which is £50 million plus for all of them. It isn't even a dig at Liverpool. It's just the nature of the beast. It's when you're building up, it's easier. Once you're staying at the top, you know what I mean? You look at some of the cheap prices that some of Leicester's players have got over the. Look how cheaply they got Kante. Look how cheap they got Patson Daka and that. If they were still winning league titles, they ain't picking up no Patson Daka for that price. But they're going, hang on a minute, you're champions of England. You must see him for a reason, right? They stick. Like I've felt as a United fan my whole life. There's always been what I used to call like a United tax. Like I always felt like our transfers are more expensive, even before we had dickheads like Woodward doing the work. I always felt like, why do we seem to pay on average 5, 6, 7 million more than other people? And it's because it's the nature of the beast. There's actually a really good thing KPMG did, because KPMG are the leading consultants that clubs go to help them structure the finances in football. And they put together the formula for it. And one of the things that makes a player more expensive is what they call sporting potential. So when you buy a player that might be able to win you a league, that winning the league is worth a lot of money, both in prize money and then the spoils that come with it, sponsorships and everything else. Therefore, the premium for that player to help you win the league makes him more expensive for you. But this isn't, when people say it's Man United tax, it isn't. But it's part of the real formula. So Liverpool think they're going to sign a player to help them win a league title. That's more expensive than signing a player to get you from mid-table to fourth. It just is. Liverpool know this, by the way, because they'll speak to the same consultancies that I used to work for. It's just, this is what should be happening on Sky Sports and BT Sports during the transfer windows, is fans should be educated on the fact that these things really go on, net spend isn't real and everything else, because then it would make more sense. It might actually make you more angry, because then you realize that Liverpool are just being cheap, but you are just being cheap. It's as simple as that. Like there's no other way around.
So the same with the Luis Diaz thing that came out for me. I've said this and I'll say it again. I have emotionally disconnected from the January transfer window. Why should I sit here, waste my energy, waste my breath, waste my time, and just sit there and go like, oh, we need to sign. We already know this shit, but we're not going to sign players. So there's no need for me to even sit and do a video. Luis Diaz linked to Liverpool. Oh my God. Like, it's not going to happen. Let's not sit here and waste our time. So I know for a fact we're just being cheap 100%. And once again, this is not just an FSG thing. This is an FSG and a Klopp thing, because Klopp is a stubborn manager. We all know this. This side of him has negatives and positives. The positives is all these players like the likes of Ox, Minamino, blah, blah, are ready to run through a brick wall for him because he has that much faith in them. But the negative is their downfall, them playing negatively, then you don't have a replacement. But I think for me personally, the one main thing is I'll say, look, now going into the season, as I said before, up to you. You don't want to sign players? Cool. I support the team. I'm always supporting the team regardless. When it comes to this season, though, we need to deliver one of the two big ones. Now, in this summer, This is where this whole conversation changes, because this summer, regardless of what happens this season, this is the summer the new cycle begins. Whether people like to admit that or not, this is the summer of the new cycle. This is the summer of signing 4 or 5 young players and injecting them into the team and slowly making player X, player Y's replacement. If you want to do the cheap Moneyball way, let's do it then. Let's get, let's go get Chouameni and for him to be Fabinho's long-term replacement. Let's get Max Aarons as right back cover. Let's get player X, player Y. See, with Liverpool fans, we're realistic. We're not sat here saying, oh, we want Mbappe, we want Paul Pogba, we want Zlatan Ibrahimovic. No one's saying that shit. We just want players who can come in, make an impact, get me Jeremy Doku to be Mane's long-time replacement, get us, I know he's linked to Arsenal right now, but just as an example, for example, Dusan Vlahovic as a striker, plenty of options out there in world football. Luis Diaz, Jude Bellingham, so many players in world football who are young, exciting, could come on and move in the correct direction. And we need to figure out of the front three, who is going to go? Because we can't go into season 900 with Mane, Salah, and Firmino again. So it needs to be a situation where it's like, for me personally, I'm keeping Salah because I think Salah could be like Lewandowski and Ronaldo, not in terms of overall level, in terms of when he gets to 33, 34, you could still use him as a striker or basically like a number 9 where he just scores goals and doesn't need to do the all overall build up and stuff, where he's just a goal scorer. You could still use that. But for me personally, Firmino, I'd be happy to keep as a squad option. Mane is the one guy where I'm saying, I'm honest, being honest, I'm not even hating or anything. Cash in on him this summer because I think this is the last summer in which he is going to be worth anything. This is the last summer in which he's going to be worth anything. Sentiments put aside, Terry, your manager, 30 years of zero sentiment whatsoever.
No, but I totally agree with you.
But Terry, back to your point.
If we keep Mane for another season, his price is gonna half.
I hear
this
that.
Is the last price.
I hear that. Well, his contract runs out 2023 as well, anyway.
Yeah, it does.
So he goes for free. There's a comment here, Terry. Your analysis of purchasing of players is flawed. Stop using the tag cheap as a cop out. FFG have a strategy that they execute. So listen, it's not about the context of the market. FFG's strategy is to buy young and cheap in terms of the context you're talking about and build a team into winning. That's still a fine strategy, my friend. But that means it's going to take you 4 to 5 years to win another title. That's what that means. I believe they have the money to do it a slightly different way where they buy a few more players that are already ready to help you win a league title in a shorter space of time. They spin the economy, this and pandemic, that and whatever else, but they're just not willing to spend the money. Going for Rafinhas that are doing very well in the Premier League are going to cost you 50, 60 million pound. They're going to try to get players in for 25, 30 million. There's nothing wrong with that strategy, but Liverpool have the money to spend more. They are deciding not to. So I understand why you think my analysis is flawed, but it isn't. Liverpool do have a strategy and it's worked for them, but it isn't the strategy that's going to keep them at the top as consistently as Man City.
It's not sustainable, basically.
Yeah, you'll peak for a couple of, you'll build a young team. It'll get to a point where it can win. It will win for a few years and then it's too old to keep winning. But instead of you replacing Mo Salah with a player of Mo Salah's level, you're going to bring someone in that's 2 or 3 years behind that and you've got to develop in. It's cheaper. But if I'm a Liverpool fan, I don't want that approach. I want a bit of that. You want to be buying some youngsters, but you have to go out there and you look at your squad. Mo Salah, Mane, all these guys, late 20s, early 30s. In 2 or 3 years' time, the majority will be past their best. Who are you going to bring in to replace them? If you do it the Moneyball way, the cheaper way, it's great. But I don't want to see Liverpool fans moaning. If you back that process, don't moan if you go 3 or 4 years and not winning a Premier League because it's just how it is. That's my take anyway. But
yeah, no, it's probably a Liverpool fan who made that comment. Terry's spot on, by the way, when he says like, go on, Zayn. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, man. All I'm going to say, in my opinion, the reason why Mo Salah, this is debate about Mo Salah not being signed his contract, fundamentally is because FSG know there's got to be some kind of rebuild. They've got to bring in some decent players. The 50, 60 million mark. So obviously, as we keep talking about, there's a salary cap or salary budget that FSG like to keep within. So they know that whoever they bring in wants big money as well. So I think the reason why this Mo Salah is taking longer than it should do is because they're looking at, they know this season, this summer, they have to bring in players now. There's no more excuses because the Liverpool fans will kick off because, as you called out, a lot of the squad is aging. And I do believe it will be a mix between young talent coming in, but also some seasoned, like 2-3 years old from being world class, right? So we're talking at 50, 60 million. I think they'll get in about at least 250 million plus players this season. Definitely one in midfield, definitely one for Mane. But as Hussam has called out and said about Klopp's problem is he's too loyal. Mane needs to be sold this summer to help reinvest in the squad. And if we keep him for another year or two, even though we know he's declining, we're going to basically miss the boat and we're going to lose 34 million of that. Where if you look at Ferguson in his day, when we're still in their prime sort of, that's it, they're gone. Klopp is too loyal to some players and he needs to move them on. Firmino, fair enough, he can be utility sub, but unfortunately, Mane is the one that if we can still get 40, 50 for him, ship him off and reinvest that in someone new like a Vlahovic or whatever.
I hear you. This is here. So net spend is massively relevant then, Terry. You said it was a myth. Do you know what my favorite things on socials is like we've had the two leading football financial experts in Europe on the Terrace have both said that net spend doesn't exist, and still football fans persist with it does. So I'll tell you why net spend doesn't exist. You can create your own mythical net spend on player in, player out, but that isn't how clubs do it. It's a percentage of your club's turnover that you commit to spending on players. Now, the only time you can say Liverpool are not being cheap is if they're already spending over their capped limit. So say they have a capped limit for player expenses of 70% of their turnover, but they currently spend 85%. They're not being cheap. They're spending well above the rate. They're not. Look at their accounts. They're spending nowhere near that. The reason why net spend is a myth is this. If you sign Haaland and the total cost is going to be 150, 200 million pounds, his commercial activity that he brings you because of his fame generates more income than if you buy Vlahovic and he costs you the same amount of money. So that's one reason why net spend is a myth. The income that Paul Pogba creates for Man United is more than, say, someone like a Verratti. So they both might cost the same. So on net spend, you go 80 million for both. Great. But if one generates 10 times as much money coming in, it means he's more affordable. But no one ever factors in the commercial income that particular players generate. They also don't factor in wage increases. So if you look at Liverpool's wage bill over the last 4 or 5 years, you look at Tottenham's wage bill in the time that Pochettino was at the football club, it grew by hundreds of millions of pounds a year. No one factors that into the net spend. The reason that grew is because you wanted to keep Van Dijk's, you wanted to keep Mo Salah's, you wanted to keep Mane's. So you gave them big, new, shiny deals. So the net spend isn't as low as people make out. You've just decided to spend the money on other areas of your squad. So again, I don't know if the net spend, the only true net spend is the profitability of your football club, is what you turn over as a business and what you spend. That's it. There is no transfer net spend. Clubs do not use it at all. I'll tell you what, they don't use it. It's too basic to be used. It doesn't make any sense because there are so many other factors that are connected to it at the end of the day. Let's do some super chats that have come through here. So again, yeah, I mean, just Google, like, is net spend a myth or is it real? There's loads of articles about it where agents and experts speak about it. I don't actually understand why this hasn't gone mainstream yet. It literally baffles the living daylights out of me. Chelsea had 0 shots in 45 minutes. How is a draw fair? In that same period, I think City only had 4 in that first half and they had 1 clear-cut chance with Jack Grealish. But this is where statistics can be misleading in football. So there was 2 or 3 times where Chelsea worked the ball into good areas. The final ball didn't happen, so the shot didn't take place. Lukaku, when he ran through on goal in the first half and he stupidly tried to reverse pass it and his teammate was offside. That's a chance. He just didn't get the shot away, so it doesn't count as a stat. So I felt the game was fairly even. Mathematically, the title is still open, but historically, we know it will take a mother of all chokes for City not to win the league title. We'll be happy with second place, a domestic cup and champion. I mean, literally, come second, win the FA Cup and the Champions League. You could argue it's a better season than City's. You could argue. Do you know what I mean? You really could. Sad to see Zayn wants to be right rather than wishing his team to do well. FFG mad, not giving Salah a new contract. He should come to Bayern Munich. Borussia Dortmund. We will pay him. No, you won't. You don't pay anyone. That's why they will leave.
Exactly, bro. That guy's a fraud.
Here's an interesting one. It's asking me, but asking everybody. Liverpool don't need a Mo Salah replacement to be successful. If Mo Salah
Lord.
left, would you not need to replace him? I don't know.
Lord, give me strength. The highest goal scorer in the league, the guy with the most assists in the league, the guy with the most big chances created in the league, our top goal scorer in the Champions League, scored in countless big games for us. First player to score a hat-trick away at Old Trafford since Bald Ronaldo. Can you imagine? Same sentence. Bald Ronaldo, Mo Salah hat-trick at Old Trafford. Countless Premier League records. Most player of the month in a season. Broke the Premier League record for goals. Somehow we don't have to replace him. Are you crazy? Where can you find someone who scores you 20 plus goals and has 15 plus assists forget 20, 25 plus goals, 30 plus goals, and has 15 plus assists and is a part of your creativity? He's responsible for 40% of our goals this season with goals scored. If you add in assists, he's responsible for about 60%. So when you look at all of that in general, 60% of our goals have just been taken away. So obviously we need that replacement. That's crazy. That's crazy. Liverpool fan or not, that is a wild statement. Mo Salah right now is gonna go down, whether he leaves this season or not, as one of the best that the Prem has ever seen. So relax, we definitely need to replace him. I don't know. Well, guys, are you okay? Mo Salah does not need replacing. Are you mad? Like, for the first time in my life as a Liverpool fan, I can honestly say, without sounding delusional, we have the best player on earth right now. Without sounding delusional, for the first time ever. And you say we don't need to replace him. Come on.
Do you know what it is sometimes in football? Like Man United for years needed to replace Roy Keane. But again, everybody goes into what I call key stage 1 football analysis. Basic bitch shit. They take replace as I need someone who's just like him. That's sometimes impossible. What you need to do, replace means it can be someone different with different attributes, but enables your team to remain as impactful. So Michael Carrick was Roy Keane's replacement. They are not the same type of player at all. But, you know, Roy Keane's brilliantly successful at Man United, but so was Michael Carrick. You know, you think about your midfield. You've not had a midfielder, in my opinion, at your club, Thiago in his peak maybe, that's as good as Steven Gerrard, but you replaced him. But you replaced him with the right types of players to create that supporting midfield. I actually think your midfield in Gerrard's pomp with Mascherano, Xavi, and Gerrard is actually better than the midfield that you've had for the last few years.
Yeah. 100%.
But you don't need to replace but Mo Salah's goals have to be replaced. And it might be that the signing replaces 60% of his goals, but then it's what does that signing bring to help spread those goals elsewhere? If you don't replace him and you regress, like you score less goals, you win less games. Absolutely. Oh, he's back. Remy says, Terry, I have to call out your criticism of net spend. It is a factor in making genuine financial analysis. So you've just proven my point, my friend. It is a factor. It is a small factor within the process. But the way it's used in the newspapers and by fans, oh my God, we won the league and our net spend was only like minus 50. Well, why haven't you included signing on fees for the players? Why haven't you included salary and bonuses? More importantly, Arsenal are just about to try and submit a big bid of about £75 million for Vlahovic, but they're also offering £15 million to the agent. So when it comes to net spend, they're only going to show you minus 75 million. But actually, there's another 15 mil to put on top of that. My point is the way net spend is used is disingenuous to the argument. Teams will say, oh my God, look at that. My team's fourth, but we've got a positive net spend over the last few years. What have you spent on agent fees? Wage bills increased by £200 million a fucking year. That all gets factored in. That's my point, Remy. Of course, how much you spend on players going in and going out is used internally at football clubs, but it is a factor, a small factor. It isn't pinned on the rule of the accountants going, what's our net spend this year on transfers? They don't use it like that, brother. That's the point. I'm not having a pop at you. It's just crazy. Hi, Terry, new here. Can you tell me what to search for to see these financial videos? Go onto YouTube and just put in like net spend is a myth, and you'll see our video with Kieran Maguire, who is the go-to guy, not just for the newspapers. This guy, do you know Kieran Maguire and Dr. Rob that have been on the show? When Man City were being investigated for FFP fraud, they were who UEFA got in to show them how to show them what to look for and how to do it. Legit. And they found the evidence, by the way. It was just time barred. This isn't my mate who was an accountant 10 years ago. It was an accountant above a chip shop. This is like the leading voices in football finance. So yeah, just go search that. There's also an article, I think, in the Guardian where an agent speaks about it, and it makes sense in there. I know why people want it to stay though, net spend. Because when you've got good net spend, it's show off, isn't it? It's like, oh, we come third, but our net spend's better than yours. That's the only reason people are scared for it not to go, because they use it as a tool. FSG love fooling Liverpool fans with net spend. Oh, they do. They love it. They love it. They really do. They really, really do. Salah contributes 80% of the goals. No one does it. It's crazy how many of your goals he scored, isn't it?
Yeah.
Terry, even in a hypothetical world in which we will replace him, who's replacing him? If we're talking Mo Salah, then it's gonna be the ilk of the Mbappe, of the Haalands of the world, which we know we're not gonna buy. So if like for me personally, like we are speaking when you say Mo Salah is gonna get, okay, let's assume for the sake of argument, this club has lost everyone. Liverpool FC will continue to live forever. So with Mo Salah, without him, we'll continue to be a football club, and we'll continue to be at the top of English football. But here's my thing: when it comes to Mo Salah, if he leaves in this hypothetical world, who can replace him with the same amount of contributions? You're talking Haaland, you're talking Mbappe, I don't know, you're talking Karim Benzema, you're talking about like the upper echelon of footballers who we don't sign. Like if Mo Salah leaves and his replacement is Luis Diaz, that's not good enough, because we know for a fact Luis Diaz is not going to sit there in his first season in the Premier League and score that many goals or have that many assists or have that much impact on games. Mo Salah has been criticized by loads of rival fans for only having good games when he has GAs. This season, he has completely busted that myth wide open. No one says that anymore, because Mo Salah cannot score and not assist and still be the best player on the pitch. And this is the thing, because we've seen him thread passes through with outside of the boot crosses. We've seen him do so many different things. He's added so much to his game. So now when you tell me Mo Salah is going to be, oh, we can replace him, fair enough. But then are we going to get Haaland? No. Are we going to get Mbappe? No. Are we going to get Benzema? No. Are we going to get Lewandowski? No. So we know for a fact that we cannot replace him like for life.
No, you're missing a point, bro. We've got a manager who has got pedigree in taking players to the next level. Lewandowski. Look at him now, bro. Klopp was part of that process of getting in there. Look at Salah. Look at Mane. So what I think one thing we have over other clubs is we've got a fantastic coach who has proven ability to develop and get the best and raise players' games. So I think from our point of view, we should be looking at that top echelon. We should be looking at people with the right characteristics that we need in our team that we can develop, and within an 18 months, 2-year period, bang, that's it. And they're then consistent for the next 4 or 5 years. That's what we're looking at this summer, hoping for, because fundamentally...
You're saying that, but then you yourself will be here on the terrace saying, why are we not winning, blah, 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 because you're not going to wait for Rafinha for 2 years to start scoring goals.
Well, I don't think Rafinha will take 2 years, bro. He's ready.
And that's but again, Rafinha is going to be a 50-60 million pound signing, and I think you if you make 2 or 3 of them and start bringing in these youngsters, you've got to get the transition right. One of the biggest mistakes Man United made, and you're a great case in point. Firstly, Fergie and David Gill left, but we actually kept Vidic and Rio and all these guys 2 to 3 years too long. They should have been replaced when they were still... What Fergie got right in his earlier days before the Glazers came in is we replaced our best players when they were still in and around their best, maybe just past it. When the likes of Van Nistelrooy were moved on, Bruce and Pallister, all these guys, he didn't leave it so that the transition was done right. And I believe the pressures of Chelsea and what they did, and then Man City getting money kind of stopped Man United's process. Plus, we didn't spend enough. Like Anderson's a great example in midfield. Pogba leaving was part of this problem as well. Like Pogba, it created Pogba's thing to leave. Paul Scholes was still our best midfield player, but we needed to give more game time to the likes of Anderson and Paul Pogba to develop them. But winning became harder because teams were around us, and we weren't willing to spend the money on stars that were ready to go straight away. So Fergie had a great knack, and of course he bought stars. No one's denying that he didn't. But he also bought a lot of players when they were young, took them through the academy, or he bought them like an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer from relative obscurity, a Chicharito from relative obscurity, and brought them in. That became harder with Glazeronomics. We held on to our better players for too long. But then the likes of Phil Jones and Smalling and Anderson, they weren't developed enough to be able to pick up the mantle because they didn't get enough game time in those in football between like 18 and 23. They are the most important years to start playing regularly to get into your flow, and they didn't do it. And then some of it, they got Anderson got injuries. He ate far too many bags of. This guy used to like finish training, go KFC, legit. Like the players tell stories about it, but he wasn't in his first season. Anderson looked good. And then he just slowly didn't play enough games. He wasn't being given enough development time. So you've got to this is what Liverpool have got to get right, that balance. And City do it brilliantly. They know when to move players on. They know when to bring in people. They get a great mixture of buying ready-made stars and developing youngsters like the likes of Stones, the likes of Foden, to name a few. So getting that balance right. And Liverpool are in that position where Liverpool of it's going to be, I'm just intrigued to see what they do. And building your second team and maintaining success is what makes Fergie the GOAT for me, because he maintained those levels when he was rebuilding. That's what's hard to do. And fans, I don't think, have the patience for it anymore because it's a modern day thing. Everybody wants instant gratification. How annoyed do we all get when Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney drop a new series? We sit down on Friday night ready to binge watch it, only to find out they're only releasing one episode a week. It annoys us because we want it all now. Like, we don't want to wait. We don't want it to cook. Gone are the days of shows like The Sopranos with like 20 episodes a season that takes 20 weeks to watch. We want to binge it in 4 nights now, and that's just manifests itself right across the world.
So, Terry, question for you, bro. In Liverpool, who do you think needs to be moved on then? Because I'm calling out Mane and Henderson. That's just me.
Okay, Henderson. I think you keep Henderson as club captain for another year or two. Maybe not
Like
starting every game. Milner's gone. I think when you look at your attacking players, Firmino and Mane need to be moved on. Get some money for them. And that plays a big part towards being able to spend money elsewhere. You mentioned Milner, allow him to leave as an example. I think Matip, because Konate is
looking good.
He needs more games. Like, he's still on the bench too much for me. He needs more games. I look at those 3 as key outfield players that you can move on as an example, because you don't want to be moving out too many. You don't want 6-7 out, 6-7 in. You want to be moving out 3 and 4s at a time, but you need to bring in quality. So you need to replace all of those players. And I would say 2 of those, say get rid of those 4, 2 that come in are for the future. So someone like a Bowen that wouldn't need to start straight away, as an example, a young and then a young midfielder like a Tchouaméni. Okay, that's an example. He might actually play straight away because he's that good, but young. And then you go for slightly older players, 24, 25, 26 in the Rafinha mode. So they've got that, like, they're grown men. They're not kids that are away from home for the first time panicking. They know how to handle criticism. You've got some youngsters for the future. Do that over the next 2 summers, and that's 8 new players in your squad. And then maybe it takes 3 summers, because then you're looking at maybe 13, 14 players in total. And then you can slowly move people out. Slow period of doing it. And there's 2 or 3 that I still think you keep. Van Dijk, I still think he's got 4 or 5 years left in him. Easy. Mo Salah, 4 or 5. Easy. Alisson, 4 or 5. Trent, Robertson. These guys can be your decade-long players that are just here for like a long time.
The spine, basically.
The spine, as you put. That's what I would look to do, mate. Again, I don't want you to do all that. I want you to completely cock it up as a Man United fan. But that's what I would say. Go and do. Someone says John Stones came from Everton. Yes, he did, but he was young. And if you buy an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, or he comes through the academy, the process is still the same. You develop them slowly. You turn them into the players that you want them to be over the course of time. You can't just be like, all right, you're here, throw them straight in, no development time. It's interesting with Pep. As he goes through these processes of dropping certain players and rotate, and sometimes he's like, obviously doesn't rate John Stones anymore, and then he plays 30 games on the bounce, then he's out of the team for like 2 months. It's just the way he does things. But there we go. Another super chat here that says, all Man City fans have the audacity to compare the league win to the Champions League. Desperate much. Listen, they're both brilliant. They're both different. There we go. Listen, everybody that has tuned in today, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you, my super chatters, my subscribers. Remy, good challenge on the net spend stuff as well. I saw your other comment where you said that they factor in all elements, and they do. And you're right, which is why I don't like when people boil it down just to net spend, because you just said it again. It's not what they do. And I know that you're an accountant yourself, and I respect that massively. Don Hussein, Zane, and the other boys that were on today, thank you all very, very much. Viewers, back later tonight with more transfer news. Until then, take care.